Welcome to Wednesday, Secular Soapbox Day here on the Skeptic Haven Network. I'm your host, Mike Wiseman. As always, I'll be joined by my favorite co-host, Apostacie. Today's special guest is Apostate Ashley. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support the network on Patreon. Let's start the show. Yay! Welcome to the show, Ashley! Woo!
First show of the year.
This is our first show of the year. Amazing.
Yes.
Holy
Oh,
cow.
heck
Kat
yeah.
says,
Well,
great to see you.
Mm.
How exciting. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking the time. For those of us who don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I live in Ohio, and I am a mom to a 13-year-old.
That sounds fun.
I have my own YouTube channel called Apostate Ashley, like my name, and I'm a part of the Clergy project, which is 501c3 for ex-clergy who have left the faith. And so I'm on the board of that. And I also started doing interviews of other Clergy project members to find out what their deconversion story was, what their reason for getting into religion was, and then getting out of religion. And so on top of that, I started adding more to it. I'm a former pastor myself. That's why I'm a part of the Clergy project. I was a Pentecostal pastor in a denomination called Open Bible Churches, which is a very small denomination, very similar to Assemblies of God, derived out of Foursquare decades ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah. I've heard. I was actually dedicated in the Foursquare church
Oh,
as a baby.
that's cool.
Yeah, and I feel like I have heard of Open Bible, but yeah.
What is Open Bible? What is that?
It's it's basically a copycat, smaller denomination, almost like to this Assemblies of God. So very Pentecostal, very charismatic, spirit filled. You know,
You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow.
I think we can probably all relate.
Yeah.
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 We've all been there. Oh, this is
Yep.
great.
And then
So they-
I left there when I was 27. I'm 37 now. So
Wow.
Okay.
it's I mean, that's 10 years, but it's just been over 9 years that I've been gone, and I was in the ministry for 9 years. So I've been out the same amount of time I was in.
Okay.
Wow.
And I was all in.
So what made you, let's go back to the beginning. What caused you to do that? Why did you become a pastor?
Well, I had always wanted to be a pastor. I started going to youth groups when I was like 12 years old.
So you were raised in the church?
Ish. My mom had started to take me when I was 5 years old, but then there was a church split when I was 8, and so she left. But then I got invited when I was 12 by some boys at school on the bus, and they invited me to come to youth group. And so there was a big group of them in a van, and they came by and picked me up, and we all went together. And I was really hooked. There was an altar call that was an Assemblies of God church, and so that's kind of what I went. That's what I was a part of when I was in high school, junior high and high school, was the Assemblies of God churches. And I would just hop from youth group to youth group, all the different Assemblies of God ones. After that, as I started going through high school, and the big thing was the altar call. That very first time I went, I was the only one that didn't go up, but I sat back and I watched. And to me, I thought it was the most amazing thing. At the time, I came home and I was telling my mom all about it. I was like, it was the best night ever.
What made it so good to you?
It was very comforting. I think, I kind of, my family was kind of falling apart a little bit at the time, and things were kind of rough at home. And so I found comfort going there, and there were some older ladies that were kind of motherly like, and at the time I was sad that my mom wasn't coming back to church and stuff like that. And
Right.
so these ladies would pray with me, they would lay their hands on me, they would even hug me up at the altar while they're
Mhm.
praying for me, and the worship was very comforting to me.
Yeah.
And I've really always struggled with my mental health. And so looking back, oh, that's my stepdad. Thanks.
Aw.
So looking back on that, it was really just a kind of a form of comfort for me, because I would be able to pour out all of my emotions during worship, and I would be able to cry and
Mhm.
laugh and whatever else I wanted to do to get out all these emotions. And it was normal in that situation to do that, to go through all those waves of emotion. And
Mhm.
that's what those churches are like, the Pentecostal
Yeah.
churches. It's all about this emotional experience, and that's very much what I was a part of. Looking back on it,
Mm.
I can see that it was a coping mechanism and
Yeah.
maybe helped me get some of my emotions out, but it was also very exhausting and draining. There were hours and hours and hours of worship, and it drained me, and it
Mm.
was just like hysterics a lot of the time.
Yep. That's how I describe it too, as hysterics.
You say the same word?
I say the exact same word. It was just hysterics, and I also say theatrical too,
Mm.
like a lot to watch and take
Yeah.
in. But yeah, hysterics.
Very theatrical.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very much that way.
Yeah.
And so I look back on that, and I think, wow, there were a lot of times where we just poured ourselves out, like so much emotion, so much
Mhm.
crying, so much
Yes.
praying. And then
Breaking you down. That's what they did. They broke you down to you're just this
yeah,
big,
That
and then they give you
vulnerable
Jesus, and
state.
it's like, oh, thank you. It's
and
like,
you would get this high, and then you'd go throughout the week, you'd go through your low, and then you'd be looking for your high again. And so as I got closer to being able to drive myself, hey, Elliot,
secular, right?
so
What's
are
up, man?
you. You're awesome.
He is awesome.
Absolutely.
I know. I love him.
Yeah.
He's great.
Yeah.
So, oh crap, where was I at?
Just
Comforting,
how they break you down, and they kind of get you to that vulnerable state
exhausting.
through the
Yeah. And then
emotion.
you look for that. Okay, yeah, you look for that high, and you go back. And so around the time that I started driving was I was going to maybe 5 church services in a week. I
Wow.
was
Yeah.
I was so hooked. And when I was in one of the youth group worship services, I thought that I was getting like a prophetic message from somebody,
Mm.
that I was supposed to be a missionary, or I was supposed to be a pastor, that I'm supposed to be this leader and all that kind of stuff. So
Oh.
I hung on to that from 14 years old until I was 18.
Wow.
And when I was 18, I jumped right in.
Mhm.
I actually didn't even finish high school. I dropped out and got my GED, and then went to master's commission, if you've ever heard of that.
That
What is that?
master's commission, is that the one? No, it's not John MacArthur's. No, because he wouldn't train women to be pastors. So
Sounds like a great guy.
yeah. So that's master's seminary. Okay, so master's commission, which
Yeah,
Mm.
master's commission was a discipleship program for college age
yes.
kids.
Okay.
Mm.
Very similar to Teen Challenge.
Oh, okay.
What's that other one? There's Teen Challenge, Teen Mania.
Teen Mania. I know someone who went to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a ex-boyfriend back in the day that went there, and
Mm.
then I went into master's commission,
Mhm.
and it was very strict. There were, you couldn't date. It was the Jesus first year, the very first year. That's what we called it. It was a Jesus first
Right.
year. Couldn't date, couldn't talk on the phone with the
Oh, wow.
opposite sex, couldn't text the opposite sex. There were curfews.
Good grief.
And then there were consequences for breaking some of those rules. You'd have to come in on your day off and clean the church for 3 hours per inspection
Oh my gosh.
at 5 a.m.
Wow.
And it sucked if you got 2 or 3 of them
Yeah. That's a full-time job at that point.
for being like a minute late, But it was crazy. But the whole point of the program was to go through Bible college courses as well as traveling around the country and basically doing missions work. So we would go to Sunday services and we would put on the church service for the adults and they would give us their tithes. And then we would also go to youth groups and we would use that time to recruit their youth.
Wow.
Talk to their juniors and seniors.
Wow.
And so then at the end of the year, we would do a missions trip out of the country. So,
Right.
I mean, yeah,
Deep.
we traveled around a lot and I basically spread a bunch of wrong information.
How does that make you feel, Ashley? How does that make you feel?
Not good.
No.
But that was kind of how I got my schooling, my Bible college courses, and how I got my degree to become a pastor. So we were like stationed in a church, and so that was the church that I ended up becoming a pastor of eventually. The Master's Commission kind of fizzled out because I had gone from being a student to an intern. Then I married the assistant director, and then him and I became directors.
Wow.
So I was a part of it for like 5 years.
While in that commission thingy, did you ever, like while studying any of that, commission thingy, did you have any doubts during that time? Did anything pop up? You're like, wow, I don't really know. Start questioning your faith or anything?
No, I never really questioned it. I was never really around people that thought differently than me. Other than high school, my friends at school, but at that time I didn't really think anything of it. This is so bad. I feel stupid now looking back on it, but I pitied them, I kind of looked down on them. I felt very like, oh, they'll find out someday type of thing. Like they'll find out I'm right. But
God will teach them.
Yeah. But then when I was a part of it, especially out of high school, that's just who I was around all the time. And that was it. And so nothing and nobody really ever challenged me until like Facebook came around and the internet is what got me.
Wow. So what was it that started to chip away at the belief?
Well, okay, so when I was actually pastoring, so when the Master's Commission fizzled out, we were actually just pastoring at the church. We were assistant pastors, and my ex-husband's actually still there too. Well, when I had left, he stayed, and he's still there at that same church too. Everything's like the exact same, basically, and and so I was on Facebook, and there was this one pastor that he was this older guy, like in his 70s, 80s, something like that. And he had been an open Bible pastor, and he left our denomination and had become a part of the Universalist Unitarian churches.
Okay.
And so he had dismissed his hell doctrine, and I saw him posting a lot. And he had written a book, and he talked a lot about his book and about why the Bible didn't support a literal hell. And then I was debating with him a lot on his posts and on Facebook. I was at that point I was like part-time working at the church and then part-time stay-at-home mom. So I'm just like this, like You know, the typical stay-at-home mom is going on and debating people, basically. And
Let me change the diaper real quick. Hold on.
and so I would get really fired up and I would talk back with these guys, and then all of his like UU friends would jump in, and they were all really nice too. And they all were sending me all these resources, and they started teaching me about the 4 different words that hell was translated from, you know, Sheol, Gehenna, Tartarus, and Hades. And so
Great job remembering all that.
Yeah.
I would have left out Tartar. I forgot that one.
Huh? No.
Tartar.
I pronounce it Tartarus. I guess.
Oh, there you go.
But
no, neither do I. It's fine. You're fine.
So that was like the first thing. I started looking into it after some of those conversations, and kind of came to the same conclusion that the Bible didn't really support a literal hell. And so that kind of got me becoming very skeptical.
Wow.
But then I started looking a little bit further, because I started looking up like debates so I could hear both sides. I was trying to look up debate videos. This was just prior, like a year prior to the Ken Ham and Bill Nye one. And I really wish that I would have seen that one too, because that would have got me. But
that was a fun one.
But I really started listening to a lot of Seth Andrews stuff after the debates. And so between listening to those debates and hearing both sides, and then hearing that the atheist side made more sense, and that they had, you know,
logic and reason on their side.
Yeah, I mean, just the whole thing. I was impressed that they knew the Bible better than the guy that was supposed to be defending it. And he was making a lot of good points. And then I started looking into all that stuff. I basically got to the point where I was like, oh, crap. So there's not sufficient evidence for Jesus? Like, what the heck did I get myself into?
Yeah.
And so that was the straw that broke the camel's back, basically, was the lack of evidence for Jesus. Wow. And after that, I couldn't unsee it, because it just kept unraveling.
Yeah, it just keeps going. It just gets, 100%.
It's still going.
It's so true. It's so true. I think we all can understand that, just that aha moment where it just all falls apart. And it's like, once you see it, you can't unsee it, and there's no trying to stuff it back in to make it make sense. So
seen behind the curtain. You can't put the curtain back and just pretend it's not real anymore. No, well, I guess some Christians maybe do.
And I feel like I hung out a lot, like way too much in the New Testament, because I didn't really even notice some of the barbaric shit that was in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
So true.
I'm like, this is insane. Like, we can't put this one in one of those like children's Bibles for bedtime stories and stuff.
They try though. Oh my gosh, they just like tone it way down. But I've seen those children's Bibles. They're disgusting, horrible. I love throwing a little Bible says what cards inside of those. Like every time I go to Ross or Sam's Club or anything, I throw a little Bible says what cards inside the Bibles. Kid stuff. Anyway, check out my show. So the pastor thing, when you were a pastor, did you have a favorite verse or sermon while you were doing it? When you did all the time?
Not a favorite sermon, really. I did kind of blank out during sermons. They were very boring. I tried.
Sometimes they can be, that's for sure.
Yeah. But I really liked, I really hung on to keeping your oath even when it hurts. I don't remember exactly where that one was, but I hung on to that one because sometimes it was hard to hang on, especially there at the end. Because it didn't really feel like things in my life were really changing, like prayers were being answered, and it was all about waiting and hoping for these prayers to be answered. So
much waiting. Still waiting. They're all still waiting. 2,000 years. Coming soon. Yeah. 2,000 years later. Still waiting. It's like, that's terrible. We had a question here. Skeptic Haven question for Ashley. Where'd it go? Have you discovered the light and life that is inside of you? He said his kingdom is within. Have you discovered your true path?
I've discovered my way out of it.
There you go. Boy, is it liberating.
Yeah, it's very liberating. I mean, the thing is, whoever that was that said that.
Blessed be he. I don't even know why.
I just don't find any of that to be true. I really think that the Bible is full of way too many flaws, way too many barbaric things. There's no evidence for the freaking guy it's for. It's all about, like, why are you telling me to go see the light?
The whole story just falls apart. Yes, exactly. I think that's the problem. We've seen the light. We can't unsee it. We can't go back to the darkness and the blindedness of the religion that we came from. Sorry, blessed be he. Why would you blessed be he? There's so many questions. We'll talk about that. So the Clergy Project, how'd you get into that? Welcome back, Stacey.
Sorry, I had a coughing fit. I've been eating Halls this whole time, and sorry.
It's okay, it's going around.
It is. It's been in our house since Christmas. So
kids, they always bring that crap in. They share the wrong things.
I know. Yeah, we've had a couple here with influenza A, and
yes, my son's my youngest. Yeah. So
gross.
If I have to excuse myself again, that's all it is. I just don't.
So back to the Clergy Project. What brought you into that? Why'd you start that? Or not start it, but start going into it?
Yeah. So why? I don't know why I didn't go into it when I first left. I had thought about it, but as time, I was kind of in survival mode because when I left the church, it was, I basically had to fall off the face of the planet, and because they publicly shunned me when I left. And so people were harassing me. I was like, wow. I basically fell off the face of the earth. I can even go back to that in a minute too. For 7.5 years. No social media or anything, changed my phone number. Wow. And when I finally got back on social media is when I thought, hey, you know what? I've heard of the Clergy Project. Maybe I'll apply to that so I can have some other people to talk to that know where I'm coming from. And
awesome.
So that was a couple of years ago now. And now I'm actually on the board as the communications director.
Wow.
Nice job.
So I'm really glad that I joined. It's I don't know. It's just really cool because it's it's one thing to talk to people that were a Christian and now they're an atheist. That's a whole type of connection. But then it's something else if they came from the same type of denomination as you. And then even on top of that, it gets even more specialized. Then there's people that were also pastors and left, in very similar situations to mine. And so it's just, I wish I would have joined way, way, way sooner than I did. Mm-hmm. It's been really great. And they offer subsidized payment towards therapy with the Secular Therapy Project as well.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing work. We got a link to that Clergy Project, West. Throw it on there too.
Yeah.
It's clergyproject.org.
There it is.
That's awesome.
So when you left the church, did you leave it burning behind you? With fingers behind you? Yeah. Or how'd you leave?
Basically what it was like.
Yeah.
I reached a breaking point, and when I left, they were very, very pissed off. And they basically decided to call me out from the pulpit and had a whole church meeting about it. And, like I said, it's a small denomination. So once they made that announcement in the church, it spread throughout the whole denomination, across the country and stuff. So people that I had been friends with for years I think some of them meant well, but to me, it felt like harassment because they were coming to me crying and begging for me to come back, and that they were praying for me, and they, you know, would be calling me sobbing. And at the time it was just creepy to me. It creeped me out. It weirded me out. I wanted, it felt like they were not leaving me alone when I was asking them to leave me alone, or it's good. And, so that's kind of why I ended up falling off the face of the planet a little bit, because it was just like endless proselytizing from like hundreds of people.
Yeah. Stacy knows a little bit about that.
I do. We got publicly called out from the pulpit from April until November of just this last year. And then officially.
They did it for that long? It wasn't just one time?
No, it was a continuation, like every couple of weeks. Yeah. And because they were streamed on YouTube, I got to watch if I wanted to.
Damn, Stacy.
And so I would
go back and comment on my old church.
Yeah. Unbelievable. And not only us, but like they mentioned our names, but also our children's names.
Yeah, that's drawing another line.
That's where so I understand to that. And also with me, like we didn't we had friends who sat there and listened as well, but they didn't actually come to us and say like, we're praying for you, or what are you doing? They just said nothing. And to me, I was like, I don't believe in any of the afterlife or the hell, but you do. So you think that I'm going to hell, yet you're not coming to save me from it. Or so either you don't believe in it or you don't care about me. That's the way I looked at it, you know? And I also told one person who did reach out, actually one person, I said, they're not doing this for our benefit. They're doing this for all of your benefit, so that you don't leave, so that you don't defect. And it's to scare you into staying at this church.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Because they didn't, when they were talking about me, it feels like it was the same thing as what you're saying, because they tried to paint me out like I was this bad guy.
Yeah.
And they didn't even mention the fact that I lost my faith.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
They tried to make it like it was about other things.
Wow. Yeah. Kind of the same thing. They just made it sound like we just turned into these awful, evil people and bad parents and leading our children down this horrible path that is taking away their salvation. And I'm like, oh my God, like talk to us. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. They had a lot of the same opinions about me as a mom. They did not think I was fit to be a mom because I was an atheist.
Yeah. I get that.
They didn't announce that part from the pulpit, but that's what they said to me specifically. Yeah. Well, and they didn't even have to say it, because they actually, with the help of my ex-husband, before we had actually went through our divorce and had custody stuff arranged, he decided to keep my daughter from me. And that was all the way out in Iowa. I live in Ohio now. So she was 10 hours away from me, and he was refusing to meet up with me for me to get her back. And when I the next day, I decided to get in the car and just drive out there. So I went out there, and I thought I was going to be able to get her, like sneak her out of the daycare. Because, you know, I obviously had legal right to do so. And she wasn't there for some odd reason. Like he didn't go into work or something at a normal time. He caught wind that I was there and trying to find her. And so then him and about 20 church members were passing her from home to home. So I couldn't find her. Like, so they basically, legally, they weren't, the cops could not do anything because the decree was not finalized, but they basically were hiding her from me, and passing her from house to house. And I searched for 3 days. I had to go to my lawyer and get like a court order basically to get her back. And That was a real, that was a nightmare.
No kidding.
But
Sounds
when
like
I
it.
got her back, it actually didn't stop there. It actually got way worse after that. So my ex-husband, he worked until like later in the evening, past the time that like the daycare would be open. And he was friends with, well, we both were friends with this family before I had left. He stayed friends with them. And the husband worked at the daycare at this church, this other open Bible church there in town. And he offered to take my daughter home back to his house after the daycare closed, and he could pick her up from there. So she was there all the time. There were weird things that started too. But prior to this, my daughter was going over there. When she was going over there and visiting, I would try to call the mom and say, "Hey, can I FaceTime my daughter? I would like to talk to her." And she'd say, "No, this is our time. You're not allowed to talk to her. You can talk to her when she's with Nick." And oh shoot, I shouldn't have said his name. It's fine. Oh well. And so
it happens.
So then, okay, so anyway, that a month after I had gotten her back, after that whole kidnapping thing happened, she asked me how many more nights of sleep she had until she had to go to her dad's house. And I said 4 more nights. And this is when she was around 3.5. And after that, about 10 minutes later, she had soiled herself. And that was something that I started noticing was happening. And she was potty trained. So she kind of went backwards on that. And then she started licking her lips a lot. Like she had a lot of redness around. Yeah. She was obviously very stressed out. And then she kind of came straight out after that. And I'm not going to say like what she said, but basically I ended up finding out that she was being sexually abused by their son, who was 16. And they were obviously a part of the church. And when I brought attention to it, they did what they do best, and they try to hide it and shove it under the rug and protect the perpetrator, basically.
Yeah, of course.
And so that was probably one of the most insane, traumatic things that we had to deal with, because, you know, the fact that they kept trying to take her from me, they didn't trust that I could be a good mom. And I also didn't have a legal right to really keep her from her dad either. I still don't. And we could not get the investigation to prove that he was actually molesting her. And he had gotten away with it. I had actually looked him up quite a few times and saw that he is now a youth pastor.
Oh.
So sometimes I make anonymous phone calls about him, but
wow.
Yeah, so he's around other young kids.
Wow. That's scary.
It's very
scary.
My gosh.
It's
very scary. And he completely got away with it. His parents protected him. And then my daughter was just left with that trauma forever. Like when she started to soil herself, that was something that ended up becoming a habitual problem.
Oh my God.
And it's been 10 years almost, or, almost 10 years, I guess. Yeah, no, because this was before I actually got my divorce or whatever. So, because it wasn't finalized yet. So yeah, it's been about 9-10 years since that's happened. And she is still dealing with the encopresis that developed because of that.
Oh my
wow.
And so every time, there's those types of troubles, it's just like a reminder every time. And I don't know. I went through an angry stage, and that's what I meant when I said that I was in survival mode. So, when I had left, like, I was just trying to push through because it was hard. And on top of the fact that when I left the church, I had like no experience in any secular workplace, things like that. I had been a stay-at-home mom and pastor. So I had to try to like get on my feet and get a decent job that could pay for things for me and my daughter and daycare. And so it was a struggle. It was just survival mode for a long time. And then I finally decided to start coming out about 2 years ago to start talking about some of this stuff. And I was very, very, very frightened to mention the molestation and things like that, because my ex-husband and I have worked very hard to be cordial with each other, and for him to understand, like, I don't know, his role in all of that. And so we are more cordial and try to co-parent together. But I was very, very, very angry for a long time. And I was worried about saying anything about it. But at the same time, there needs to be attention brought to the fact that this is way too normalized. This happens way too much. My story is just like many others that are out there.
Too many.
Mm-hmm. And way too often they are playing police. They're covering things up, and they're calling the shots and not getting actual law enforcement involved.
Yeah.
Ever.
It takes a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I'm so sorry. I don't even know the next segue, but I am so sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I probably should have warned you.
No. I've actually
it happens all the time on this show, actually. It does. It's like, wow, out of nowhere, people have amazing stories and horrible stories. So, people go through a lot of stuff. That's a lot.
I have heard your story before, but I forgot parts of it, and still so, wow.
Man, that's the thing.
Yeah. It's like, for me, it was most traumatic at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the part that was traumatic for me. But prior to that, it was like all fun and games. It was I loved it. I loved the people. I had a good time. And then all of a sudden it just seemed like it took a turn and things were getting dark, and it's like, oh wow. So okay, this is great until it's not, because it just breeds the opportunity for the extra evil shit to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. That's quite a story. Horrible story. It's life. Ashley, don't apologize. You're in a safe place now. Yeah.
That's my mom.
That's Stacey's mom.
Oh.
Yeah.
Stacey's mom joins us every week.
Yeah.
So, kind of for Stacey as well, too, I'm very curious. While you guys were in the church, did anything like what happened to you guys happen to anybody else? Was anybody else excommunicated in public like that, in such a public way? Did anything like that happen? You know? Yeah. So you witnessed it happen to other people?
Yeah. Another pastor, a pastor's wife, it happened to. The senior pastor's son was going through some stuff with his wife, and so they publicly shunned their daughter-in-law from the pulpit just like a month before me.
Wow.
How'd you feel about that?
At the time I was feeling like what everybody else in the church was feeling, but I was, sad for her husband and, things like that. But I also was really turned off to it because I was friends with her, and I saw the pain that she was going through on her own, and she was going through it all by herself. And it was extremely embarrassing for her. She didn't even feel comfortable staying friends with anyone whatsoever.
Wow.
And I did think it was messed up. I said something to them. I was like, what, like, I don't understand what good you think this is going to do. Why are we doing this?
Mm-hmm. What'd they say? What was their answer?
This is what you have to do when somebody's in leadership. When you're in leadership, this is just what you do. That's what their response is. I guess so.
Yeah. They try to say it's biblical. They have scripture to back it up. And
always.
Yeah, there's a whole doctrine on it, on church discipline, but whatever. You can twist anything. But
absolutely.
And in the church that we were a part of, there was someone else who was currently under church discipline that they would kind of bring to attention.
Church he wasn't discipline.
Yeah, we have some that
he could just fuck right off.
Yeah.
Church discipline.
Yeah, we had one guy. He was on church discipline for a while because he struggled with drinking alcohol.
I think that's what this guy had.
No. Oh wow.
I think so. Yeah.
Jesus turned water into wine, but can't drink alcohol. Anyway. So the YouTube channel. Well, how long have you had the YouTube channel? Oh, did your political views or other views change when you became an atheist? Oh, good question. Who
that is a good question. They did change majorly. I had always been very Republican because that's just like what everybody and like. And the senior pastor, all of us staff, we were supposed to vote the same way. We would have meetings before the elections, and he would tell us how we were supposed to vote. So because he told me how to vote, I did vote the opposite that last time because I was pissed off being told what to do.
That's awesome.
And so I was like, what's, because that was when it was Mitt Romney and Obama. And so I voted for Obama. Because I was like, well, what's wrong with this guy? There's nothing wrong with him. I like him. And so I voted for him because I was like, that doesn't even make any sense. You want me to pick Mitt Romney because he's a man of God, but he's in a different religion.
He's a Mormon, or was he Mormon, right?
Yeah, he's Mormon. So I was like, it didn't make sense to me. And he's like, well, but he still believes in
it's the same God, as long as it's that God. And he's not a brown man.
Sorry, there was a bug.
Spider? Oh, okay. Spiders, I totally understand. Burn the house down, run out, we can do this later.
So, yes. So right around then, it was that election, 2012, my views started to change. And that was when I voted for Obama out of rebellion. And then the next election, I started to become a little bit more liberal. And then this very last one, I was very liberal for that one. So it's just kind of like progressively gotten more and more liberal.
More awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Better decisions as you go along. Yeah. Unclouded by religion, you definitely make better decisions. I know I have as well. Do you still have remnants like fear of hell?
No, I actually don't really struggle with that. I know plenty of other people still fear that. I think that probably comes a lot from being maybe majorly indoctrinated by very fundamentalist parents. But I was very lucky that my parents were not fundamentalists. I kind of got into it mostly on my own. So when I was a part of it, it was all like, rainbows, sunshine, all that kind of stuff, hung out in the New Testament, all the happy stuff in the Bible. Yeah. And I didn't really think about hell that much. It was just kind of one of those things where it's like, I'm good because I'm saved. And,
but like when you were deconverting, did it all come up as a fear?
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
No. So when I started reading into all of that and learning those original words and then realizing, even based on the Bible, that it wasn't even talking about an actual place. It was, like the grave or the city dump in Jerusalem or, whatever. And so it didn't even make sense to me in the biblical way. And I just kind of dismissed it. I was very black and white about it. And I have not really struggled with it since then. I don't really fear it. Like, I mean, it would make me chuckle if somebody threatened me with that, like It's just weird to me. It's like weird to me now. Like,
Okay, yeah, thanks. Yeah. Like blessed be, I'm sure he's going to threaten us with hell at one point here.
Yeah.
He does have another question, but we're going to skip that. We're going to go to Alma's question. How did your church talk about women in general? Like, were you able to be part of the clergy? I lost my place. But did they still said about being submissive to men? So how was your church treating women? Did they talk about the whole silence thing, being submissive to men?
Okay, so we would kind of talk about it a little bit more about how, like, the man is the head of the household, the country, the church, all that kind of stuff, but they would focus on the other part where it would talk about being submissive to one another. But so in some ways they treated us very equal, and then other ways it was, he's the head of the household, and so you need to respect him, submit to him, but it wasn't overly misogynistic in a lot of ways, specifically in that church, because obviously I was able to be in leadership myself, be a pastor. So in that way, definitely not. I was able to get my hands on basically everything except for men's ministry.
Weird.
But one of the explanations for that verse in the Bible that some of us would give about women needing to be quiet was that Paul was trying to tell the church that it was chaotic, that the men and women were sitting on two different sides of the church, and the women were speaking over the men when they were trying to preach in the front. And he was basically telling them, you got to calm down. Calm down a little bit and let them talk. You can't talk over them. And so that's what we thought that was, or at least that's how I would explain it away, and how others would. But when it was convenient, it would come up, submit to the pastor, submit to,
of course, when it's
husband.
Convenient. Yeah. Jerks. Thanks for that question. That was a good question. So your YouTube channel, I do want to talk about that a little bit before we head out here. Why did you start that? Tell us, what's it about? How does it work? Topics?
Well, so I do need to get some more interviews with the Clergy project rolling here this year, which is my plan. So my big thing on my channel, which again, Apostate Ashley, I want to do more interviews with other ex-clergy that are part of the Clergy project and find out how they got into religion and why they got out.
That sounds fun.
I also, just for fun, like randomly, because I really dislike Kent Hovind and Greg Locke, so I've made a couple of videos about them.
Nice.
And I have fun doing those. And then
they're easy to pick on.
I kind of want to do. I kind of want to make one, which I'm kind of working on right now. One where I read some of the most barbaric scriptures, but from like weird scenarios, like a mom with her kid at bedtime, or like I don't know. You'll see. But
that sounds fun.
I want to make
That's
that
a good
one
idea.
Funny.
Bedtime stories for your kids too. Oh man, that'd be terrible.
I actually had a moment like that reading the Bible with my kids a few years ago, and like reading like 2 Kings, and I was like, I can't read this, and I was reading ahead, and I was like, it's a story where one mother eats her child, and then the other mother's like, no, I'm not going to eat my kid. Like they made a pact or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I'm reading it to my 2 little boys, and I'm like, I can't read a story about a mother eating her son.
Mom, are you gonna eat me?
Yeah. And
is that why you're fattening me up?
Exactly. I can't read this. So I was like, okay,
you're grooming me right now.
We're gonna read some Psalms.
Is that salt in your hand?
Yeah. And I told my mom like the next day, and I was like, I felt really guilty about like not reading the Bible to my children. But it was such a moment that was like, well, shouldn't we be able to read the Bible to our kids? Like anything in the Bible? So that's a really good idea, though. I think you should.
We're here for a reason.
Exactly. Yeah. So
absolutely
do that. It's a great idea.
Do not read your Bible to kids at night. You heard it here. Not a good idea.
Exactly.
better storybooks out there. Giving Tree. That's a good one.
The Cat in the Hat.
Hey, even that one. Sorry, YouTube channel. Back to the YouTube channel.
Yeah,
so more
sorry.
clergy projects. That'd be really cool. That sounds like an awesome idea.
Yeah.
How long you been doing it?
Oh, for
how long you been doing the YouTube
year, thing? I think. Not quite a year.
Yeah. How do you feel about it? Good platform?
I like it. It's kind of a lot of fun. And I was doing some of the I like occasionally going on and doing some of these lives and stuff. And I was doing lives with Unordained prior to that. We had only done maybe 4 or 5 episodes, and it was just a group of us that are ex-clergy. And so that was a lot of fun, but it was also very stressful going live sometimes. And I found a lot of pleasure in like pre-recording and editing things.
It's so much nicer, isn't it?
It's a little stressful when you have a really bad cough. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
But
it just hits differently, that live, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I like them both, but I've done a lot less of the live. I've only gone live on my own channel like twice ever, I think. But so everything else is just kind of recorded, and sometimes it's just like whatever hits me. And I need to be way better about like scheduling and putting something on there so I get like the algorithm going.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like whatever pops in my head, and I'll do that, whatever I feel in that moment.
That's good too.
So so that's kind of been a lot of fun, and I'm going to put a lot more work into that this year for sure. I am like literally only 40 hours away from being monetized now too.
There you go.
Good for
nice
you.
job.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's exciting. So I heard you're on TikTok as well.
Yeah, I have a TikTok.
TikTok, whatever it's called.
I have a TikTok that I also need to be better about posting on lately.
I get that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work putting on the show. It's not easy. So, do what you can, of course.
I homeschool my daughter right now too. So like that takes a lot of time.
Yeah. That's all day. Homework, questions, cleaning.
Sometimes I'll attempt to do something and I'll start to get ready, but then it's like evening by the time I can, and I'm like, screw it. So I don't, but
I guess I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah. I've been saying tomorrow for like 2 weeks now.
Yeah, well, tomorrow never comes, so it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, I do that. Oh, what's the other ones that are out there? Oh yeah, I have Instagram. Everything's under Apostate Ashley. I don't know if you're okay with me saying this, but I even have an OnlyFans.
They're out there.
That's everything's under Apostate Ashley.
Gotcha. So as far as God goes, thank you for that. Thanks for sharing. As far as God goes, a question I like to ask the guests here is why do you hate God so much?
I don't hate God.
Oh, okay. That's good. That's a good start.
I don't hate God. I mean, I'd have to find him to hate him, but
that's a good answer. I like that one. It's got to exist first for me to hate him. Yeah. No, good answer.
It's like that one meme, like, come on, man, we just want to talk.
Yeah. I haven't seen that one. I like that already, though. Any day now, any day. I'm calling you. No, that's fun.
Yeah. So no, I don't hate God. I really thought I loved him and thought in Jesus for a long time, and it was very heartbreaking to walk away from my faith. And I don't hate God. I hate the messed up things in the doctrine and some of the horrible atrocities that believers will commit in the name of their God. So that's what I hate.
Yeah. Damn Skippy. Nice answer. Good
answer. Thanks.
So, favorite Bible verse? You got a favorite Bible verse you used to use, you love using?
Yeah, that one, keeping your oath even when it hurts.
Oh, yeah, keeping your oath. Yeah. That's a good, I'll have to look that one up, though. So, as far as future projects, you got any future projects coming up? Branching out?
You know what? I think I'm going to get back in doing a little bit more of my whack a cult leader.
Oh.
That I've been doing that was in That because Kent Hovind, he does the Whack an Atheist Wednesday on his channel.
What? I didn't know this.
Okay,
I'm writing this down.
Yeah, Kent Hovind, cult leader at Dinosaur Adventureland. He he has a YouTube channel, and he every Wednesday he whacks an atheist, and so I decided to make a whack a cult leader, and I did.
Why not?
The first one was on him. I was watching his, and so it was kind of like a reaction thing, and that was actually a lot of fun. Like, I want to do more of that.
That sounds fun.
And then I did another one on Greg Locke because
he's just so psycho.
He's crazy. He came to my town, and so I went to the revival and I recorded the whole thing. And so that's what I have out there for that. And so
that's good.
And then I interviewed Kent Hovind's ex-wife.
Oh wow.
That was a lot of fun. And then recently just interviewed a young kid that got out of the Greenville, Ohio cult. I don't know if you guys have heard of that one. Restoration Church in Greenville, Ohio. Okay. The leader is insane. Seriously, if anybody wants to watch anything on my channel, if you're willing to watch it, that one is a good one. Okay. This kid's story is crazy. Way more traumatic than what I had gone through. Like, I cannot believe what he and some of these other people have gone through. And so I have this like major obsession with cults and cult leaders. And so I really want to just do more of that stuff. I love like reading about some of that stuff and then telling people about it. Like, because Kent Hovind's out there, people know him for his pseudoscience stuff, his, young earth creationism stuff. Yeah. But people need to know about all the really shitty stuff that he does in the background, because all that's just a facade. Like, let's make fun of him, but you need to know what he's doing, because there are people out there that believe everything he's saying or sending money, and he's doing some messed up stuff.
That would be very informative, and I'd watch the shit out of that. You should definitely do that. Cult leaders, because who's got time to look it all up? Just throw me a podcast. Somebody knows what the fuck they're talking about, and I learned it. I got this. I love it. It's a great idea. Do it. Do it. Absolutely. All right, so we're almost out of time here. Any last words? Any last things you want to let us know? Where to find?
No, I guess what I'll say is, if there's anybody that's listening that is a believer, I just encourage you to do your own research, look into reputable resources that are outside of your Bible to find out if the things within your Bible are true. Don't be afraid to keep reading. The more you read, the more you are going to see some of these things that we all have seen. And so I encourage you to look into whether or not if what you believe is based on anything true.
Absolutely. Great idea.
Yeah.
We did have one last question. Yeah. Sorry, I skipped over it. Stacy's mom has a question. Is your daughter still attending church with your ex-husband?
She only sees him like 3 times a year because he's out in Iowa. And when she goes, she does have to go. She has to go a lot. And I think she enjoys like the worship, kind of all the same things, like, but she doesn't buy into it. She had to go to like a couple of the, like, she like this last weekend, she was just at like one of those conferences, youth conferences where they hype up those kids and have the altar calls and all that. I know. And so she said something to me like, don't worry, mom, I won't buy into it.
That's good.
Good girl.
Yeah.
Those are tough, man. Yeah. They really break you down.
Like, I don't want to like
make
her believe what I'm believing, but I also want her to stay away from something that's just so messed up. Like, I mean, it's not going to serve her well.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Oh, the new call-in show. Oh no, the secret's out. Secular. We're talking about a call-in show. We're thinking about it.
That would be awesome.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Count me in.
I love talking to Christians. That's one of my favorite things. Matter of fact, about half an hour, I'm talking to another one. So
that's cool. I love doing that.
It's so much. Plug your stuff. Where can we find everything? Little nicks and crannies, emails, all that. Where can we find it?
Okay, so I have Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, that other one I was mentioning earlier. Everything.
There you go.
Apostate Ashley. You can. Oh, and then the Twitter. That's right. At Project Clergy. I run the Clergy Project Twitter as well.
Oh, awesome.
Wow, the whole Twitter thing? Like wow, nice job.
I feel like I'm too old for Twitter. How do I do it?
I think older people use Twitter. I think it's the TikTok that's really for the younger people. I don't understand that place. I'm on it, but I don't get it. That's fun though. Thank you for that. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for coming on. This has been a blast.
Thanks for having me on.
Where can we find your stuff, Apostacie?
All the same places. TikTok.
All the same. TikTok.
Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And then here on Wednesdays. And hopefully next week I'm not coughing. So
it just takes a minute to get over that shit.
Sorry.
Yeah, no.
Brutal.
All right, Apostacie wants to go ahead and take us out in prayer.
Yes. We please bow our heads in prayer. Just joking. You didn't fall for it.
Sometimes the guests actually nod their.
They do. No. Thank you so much for coming on, Ashley. And we just want to thank our patrons, Michael Wiseman, Sunny Shell, Phil Calderone, Aaron Coalson, Deborah Grace, Bryce, Cindy Plaza, Kathy Cotton, Deneen Murphy, Dan D, and Shannon Gray. Good night, everyone.